Welcome to Water Talk with Paul the Waterman, brought to you by Water Pros. Paul the Waterman is Colorado's expert on all things related to the water we use and drink in our homes. Have you ever thought about where your water actually comes from? Is it safe to drink? Is it harmful to my health, my skin, my hair? Paul the Waterman knows water, and he has the answers. Haystack Help Radio proudly presents Water Talk. Now here's your host, Scott Watley, and owner of Water Pros, Paul the Waterman.
Old Ann and I, with throats burned dry and souls that cry for water, water, cool water, clear water, water.
Welcome to Water Talk, brought to you by Water Pros. Their number 303-862-5554, and as always, the man who invented water. Paul Dowding is with us.
Me and George Washington.
Paul the Waterman. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Been a few days.
You survived Alaska.
I did survive Alaska.
Yep,
Son,
yep.
We had a blast.
Bigfoot looked at you and said, "Boy, that's too old."
But I tell you what, man, I'm just going to be honest. I didn't get much sympathy from Victoria, my wife, but fishing for 6 days, 12 hours a day, 5:30 in the morning to 5:30 at night in the North Atlantic Ocean will wear you out, son. But, hey, we caught a lot of halibut and salmon, a lot of great fish. And
loaded with PFAS.
Yeah, hopefully they don't have it in Alaska. But anyway, but, hey, Sportsman of Colorado, be sure and tune in here, not tomorrow, but the next week, all right, where we did some great interviews while we were there. But, hey, the important thing is what's going on with our water, and the only person I know that can help you is Paul the Waterman at Water Pros. So, once again, their number is 303-862-5554. Paul, I don't know if you saw, I sent you a text a few minutes ago on the way here. I don't know if you happened to see that.
Yeah, I heard that about the algae.
About the algae here.
Water's too warm, bacteria, the algae growth, it's poisonous.
In Cherry Creek Reservoir.
That's right, it's poison.
So now they're saying only eat one serving of fish you catch there.
And swim at your own risk.
Swim at your own risk.
Correct.
So what do you think we should put as a warning of drinking our water?
Bring dial soap with you.
Yeah.
Everybody. So listen, I want to share with you something that the listening audience, we've never done this before. We have an actual water quality report, Scott, from a small municipality.
Okay.
And so what I wanted to share with you, and we're going to have to, explain this to the people, listening to us.
Sure.
But read this highlighted portion right here. This is, from the water quality report. And what's that say?
Let's see here. Non-health-based violations.
There you go. Non-health-based violations is what they're calling it. So they're self-reporting. So what they've done then is basically, if you look at it, and this is why it's kind of funny, non-health-based. But now go ahead and look at what they're calling non-health-based violations. What's the first one?
Let's see here. Volatile organics.
There you go. And so that what it means is they were late in testing for volatile organics.
And it says descriptions, failure to monitor and or report.
There you go. Right there. So
the best way not to find a problem, don't look for it.
That's it. So what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is not everybody monitors and reports in a timely manner. And then it just said failure to report. And then the next one, Scott, is synthetic organics, failure to monitor and or report. Nitrate, failure to monitor and or report. Gross alpha, that's the radioactive material, failure to monitor and or report. Fluoride, which is natural in Colorado water, as is also is an additive.
Right.
It's same thing. Failure to monitor and or report. And combined uranium and combined radium. So all these are failure to monitor and or report. So what does that tell you? They didn't test for it. Mm-hmm. And if they didn't test for it, they didn't report it. So how can they, with all seriousness, say that this is a non-health-based violation?
Absolutely.
Right. So this is from a local.
I wonder what year in the future it'll come out that says, oh, we should have been looking at these things we just talked about.
So, with Mark being here, and, we'll have Mark on again, but Mark really, sheds light to, hey, municipalities, they do the best. I believe Mark does the best he can.
No, I agree.
Okay. But when you have other agencies out there that clearly, this is on the last page of the report, people look at it, and the first thing they try to say is non-health-based violation. So if you see that, the first thing you would think is, okay, it's no big deal. Would you even read it?
Right.
Right? And so, but if you read it, basically what it means is, hey, we didn't test for anything and we didn't report it. So that's the problem. And, with the EPA, why I call it a cover-up of what our water quality is, because there's too many loopholes. And, for these guys to make this statement, now, is there any fine or penalties that they have to pay for the EPA because they failed to monitor and to report for those contaminants? And the other thing I wanted to remind everybody is the disinfection byproducts that they use to sanitize our water that are cancer-causing. So outside of the forever chemicals, PFAS, PFOs, PFAs, Gen X, we learned Gen X is really bad, and Gen X is in our water, and Gen X was created to replace the PFAS, so they made something even worse, right? So you have bromate, which the maximum contamination level for bromate is 0. But they use it. It's in the water, so the public health effect, long-term exposure, increased risk of cancer. It's a byproduct of drinking water, disinfection. We've mentioned this before, but I feel we really have to be repetitive on some things because,
people catch different segments of the show and, don't get to hear all the different explanations you're able to give.
Right. So this is why it's important. So the fact that I want to remind people what they do to our water to sanitize it is poisonous. So anything that they use that's going to cause cancer, that the maximum contamination level is 0, when you agree that's poisonous?
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm saying, the water, is it safe for human consumption? I'm going to say absolutely no. And the other reason why, and we really need to raise the alarm bell, I want to, we should do, Scott, that congressman that got elected up north.
Oh, Greg Lopez, that's running for governor.
We need to get him. We need to get him on and see. I pay for his airtime. Come talk on the show, but we need to say, hey, do you realize this is going on? I think we start with him.
I can probably arrange that.
Could you do that so we can bring it to his attention, so he can sit there and he can just look like his eyes big wide open, like what? Because I'm willing to bet he has no clue.
Yeah, it's very possible. Once again, you're listening to Water Talk, brought to you by Water Pros. And once again, the number is 303-862-5554. And real quick, that just reminded me, you have heard us reference over, the last probably year, a few times about a cardiologist that did a show or did a segment on one of the news stations talking about microplastics and different things. It's Dr. Grant Bailey and South Denver Cardiology, and he's actually my cardiologist as of late. And so I called him the other day, asked him if he'd come be a guest on, and he has agreed to do that. So I know it'll be on an upcoming Friday here. We'll give you plenty of notice. And Paul, I think that's one thing that's really good when we've got other people coming on in different sectors, Mark, from the wastewater deal. Here's a cardiologist that is ringing the alarm bell just as much as we are on water and microplastics and the danger to your health and what he's seeing in surgeries and different things he's going to go through. So it's a big deal.
You know what that means, don't you? It means that everything that you and I have been talking about for years, we were right. We're getting people to basically validate.
Yeah.
And all the information we got was out there in Google. We give the websites out for people, right, to go look to check their own information. This information I'm talking about right now is from the EPA's website, National Primary Drinking Water Regulations, so they can look that up and read the same thing I'm reading. The second major contaminant that's a disinfection byproduct that's a poison is called chloride. And chloride can create anemia in infants and young children and affect the nervous systems, and it's a byproduct of drinking water. Disinfection. And so,
And there was only, I think, in our last show, if I remember right, or the show before that, we talked about really there were 6 PFAS that were actually getting tested, right?
Right. And then the last show we had, we played a clip, or 2 shows ago, where they had PFSHX or something like that, and the Gen X company, where they're going to deregulate that so they don't have to test for it. And the EPA basically wants to, I guess, extend some sort of legal process, but that was something that, the previous administration, the EPA included, and now this administration, the EPA is saying, no, we're going to remove those 2. What this really means is if you don't have to test for them, then you don't have to legally report them. And so this report, this water quality report that I shared with you that came from a, HOA, small municipality. Well, it's a small municipality, meaning, it has, over 60 homes, okay? And so they hired the HOA hires a private contractor, and his job is to monitor the water, and the residents take for granted that they have safe water. But when you read this, do you feel really comfortable? Yeah, I have safe water. No, absolutely, I wouldn't. Right? And so...
There's your alarm.
Yeah, time to wake up. Time for the show. So one of the things that, I wanted to share with everybody is that if the EPA removes these contaminants and they don't have to be reported, then that means that it's a false sense of security. We know they're there.
And that's really easiest thing for them to do.
Right. Well,
I mean,
for example, so chloramines, we know chloramines is a disinfectant byproduct. Chloramine can create irritation, in the stomach, nose, and eyes. But one of the things that chloramine creates with organics is total trihalomethanes. And total trihalomethanes are the byproduct of disinfection of the water, adding the chloramine, which is chlorine and ammonia mixture. That can create liver and kidney or central nervous system problems and increase risk of cancer. Now, trihalomethanes for the longest time, Scott, was an unregulated contaminant until the World Health Organization really beat the drum on this and became a regulated contaminant, so now it's reported. The World Health Organization was really instrumental in trying to bring some of these contaminants to light. And then here's one, Scott, that I want to remind people that we broke the story on this show, and I started thinking it was a brand new contaminant. And I was saying, red alert, this is brand new. We called it 1,4-dioxin.
Right.
Then I find that 1,4-dioxin has been around and in the water supply since the 1890s. That's part of an unregulated contaminant that they know is bad for us. They know about it, but it's still unregulated. So what's that mean? It means that municipalities don't have to test for it and thus report it.
Interesting. And, man, I'm afraid that's what's going to happen, Hey, if you can't meet certain guidelines, the best thing to do is change the guideline.
No, you're spot on. I mean, right? If you eliminate it.
And
how can we tell if our water's safe, and how can we make a true decision about if we want to drink or how much water we want to consume if they're not being truthful and tell us everything? And it all starts with that water quality report. See, this is the other thing that why I say there's a conspiracy or a cover-up, because Congress passed a law, the Safe Drinking Water Act. And part of that Safe Drinking Water Act was to ensure that municipalities were to test the water and then provide people with an honest assessment of the quality of water so then they could make their own decision. Mm-hmm. We joked about this. It's like, have you ever seen your water quality report? Never, right? So here's one that I got a copy of that they actually mail out, but there's nothing in it. And then the last page, basically, they call non-health, violations or health concerns, which is not true because they're all basically admitting, hey, we never tested for this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Water Pros, 303-862-5554. Call now for your free in-home water test. And, hey, let them know you heard them here on Water Talk, and we would appreciate that as well. And, Paul, you look at all the things that capture our news every day, and every once in a while something about water sneaks in. But in the big scheme of things, I think, this just still hasn't come to the forefront like it needs to. And I think the only way to do is to get to people, like you mentioned. Hey, a lot of people go to these different meetings to meet different candidates for different things. Hey, bring it up. Ask them if they're aware or what is their plan. for the future of our water here in Colorado. Right?
No, we have to start doing that. So that's why, let's get the congressman in here and let's, maybe it's a platform that, he can talk about that no one else can. Maybe he can make other people answer the question, and maybe we can start getting, more people to think about this because it's a serious issue. We talk about pharmaceuticals, right? I've always mentioned, right, on this show that pharmaceuticals are a major concern. And so finally this EPA admitted that waste treatment plants, and Mark admitted they can't remove pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. But by golly, you'd go online and you'd find some people that say, oh, yeah, waste treatment plants give you a false sense of security and outright lie about pharmaceutical reduction. Doesn't work. Here is a Water Quality Association. They're kind of the independent the WQA.org. They're kind of an independent organization that, helps govern the water treatment industry, WQA.org. They have a PCP fact sheet, and the contaminants, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, endocrine disrupting compounds, and their metabolites. So basically, these are pharmaceuticals, and they're clearly in our water, and they give you a method to remove them. One of them is point of use for reverse osmosis. Water Pros now want to mention is that we have a 5-stage RO system that we're also incorporating because I really think with all the contamination that we have out there, whatever you can do to help the reverse osmosis membrane absorb as much medication out of the water as possible. But, this talks about, the pharmaceuticals. It's in, our drinking water. It clearly, this organization is admitting it, and we need to get others to admit it. We need to get others to tell the truth about it. And so how do we remove it? So point of use reverse osmosis, like you and Victoria have, also starts with the water softener, so the RO system can, filter, through soft water so it doesn't get occupied unnecessarily by hardness. And then it can attack the unwanted contaminants that we don't want.
Interesting. But I want to point that out. You said it does start with a water softener because
Right.
it doesn't help to have a point of use RO system if your water
It's hard, right? Yeah. I was at a house today just before the show.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you any recent customer stories.
I was at a house today just before the show. Had an old reverse osmosis system, wasn't supported by a water softener, and you could see the hard water build up on the RO faucet. You test the water was coming from the membrane, so the membrane got overran by hardness. And what a great analogy, because they had a false sense of security, thinking, well, it's an RO, it's there, it's doing something. Mm-hmm. And that's why I was able to explain to them why it's important to support, your reverse osmosis with soft water. ROs, short for reverse osmosis, are not designed to operate in hard water. That's why we have, and thanks to Charlie sending all the bad news about microplastics and glass bottles now, you want to know why? They haven't changed the manufacturing practices. So Charlie, their producer, sent us really great articles, and one of them was that they find more nanoplastics in glass bottles of water than than what they thought in regular plastic bottles of water. So you think if you got a glass bottle of water that you're going to be okay, right? Because that's the high end. What's that, Perrier or whatever that is?
Perrier.
Yeah, the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
So anyway, what that means, Scott, is that there's still the manufacturing practices is that they're not pre-treating the water, so the membranes that get beaten up by hard water, they're the ones that accumulate the calcium, and so the microplastics, nanoplastics, bounce off of them, and then they pass through the other set of membranes. So it's just, in my professional opinion, it's poor manufacturing practices that create this issue. And now we're at an issue with microplastics and nanoplastics to the point where before Mother's Day, Fox News reported that we had enough plastics in our brain. It's penetrated the body. Remember we first talked, we were talking about, I was worried about getting into male and female reproductive organs, and then it was in the placenta, and then we had the news article that we played with your cardiologist talking about it getting into the arteries, and now they've penetrated the human brain to the point where, before Mother's Day, they were saying there's enough nanoplastics to make up a plastic credit card. And now, after Mother's Day, in I think early June or May, they talked about enough microplastics in the brain to a plastic fork. When's Mother's Day? Is that May?
May.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That shows you're in trouble, bud.
I know.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned somebody having a RO system before a water softener. Do you think there's a lot of people that do that kind of thing? And then my next question would be, what about filters that you see in like box stores, different things like that? Do you think a lot of folks waste a lot of money on some
Absolutely,
garbage
they
filters?
do. They waste a lot. I was at home today where they had an inline filter, 2 inline filters, and then an in and out tank. And so a company put it in. They're no longer in business. It was an in and out tank. I think back in the day it was for chlorine, reduction. But you get a false sense of security. But think about this: if you have a water filter, an inline water filter, big whole house inline water filter, that's like a dirty vacuum cleaner bag leaching. Because it just accumulates, and to the point it can't accumulate anymore, then it's going to, you're going to have a magnified problem, because it's like, you remember the day when vacuum cleaner bags, when we didn't change them, they blew up and dust went all over the place, right? Okay, that's a really good analogy. If you have a huge inline filter and you never change it, then eventually the contaminants are just going to explode all over and be all over the water because it can't take any more. Mm-hmm. And so what's going to happen? So, I think that's a perfect analogy. I did that once, Scott. I kept, I had a vacuum, and I know I can push it a little more, and boom. Jeez. What a mess.
That's a mess.
Yeah. So think about what that would be if you have a filter and you never changed it.
Mm-hmm. All right. Let's tell folks how you can help them. So if they need to start with the water softener, tell us about your product, where it's made, and how much.
Boy, I really appreciate that. Thank you. So, the system's made in Appleton, Wisconsin. The manufacturer is Clack Corp, so the website is clackcorp.com. I don't mind giving that out.
Sure.
And so, we deal directly with them. So we came up with a specialized multimedia system on proven technology. That's our KDF 55 on top of activated carbon in chamber 1 and then water softening resin in chamber 2. We call that the Matrix. And then we also have another version we call the Echo Pro Max. So what's happened is the Matrix was basically the founder. This is the first product. And then the manufacturer, wanted to enhance that for us. So the Kenai Echo Pro Max, and both products are up on the website so they can see. The Kenai Echo Pro Max, it has a modern updated control valve. And now the manufacturer, believe it or not, with the Kenai Echo Pro Max, offers a lifetime warranty.
Wow.
So that's, so I'm and I'm really, happy with that because we worked directly with the manufacturer and they had some technology, Scott, that they wanted to use. So KDF is an organic mineral, media. KDF 55 and 85 is both organic. It's a copper-based media that is bacteria resistant, can remove chlorine, can remove sulfur out of the water if you're on well water, and it can last up to 10 to 12 years. And so what was going on is there was another knockoff company that was trying to use these little bitty sponges and dip them in that KDF and think it's the same thing. And I called baloney. It's like, no way, that's not legitimate. And I was able to work with the manufacturer. They saw that what I said was true. They did their own research. And so now we're able to add 6 pounds of KDF to the half cube of activated carbon. And that filtration media is going to last 12 years. 12 years. So that means you're going to, and because of the control valve on the Kenai Echo Pro Max, it goes through a backwashing process. All that media is cleaned with soft water.
Right.
So, that means the filtration media is rinsed off. That's the important thing. You never want to be, it makes no sense, Scott, to have a filtration system if you're going to use the same dirty water to backwash.
Right. You said bologna. Made me think.
Yeah.
Do people still eat bologna?
Dude, bologna and ketchup is the best. Well, bologna and ketchup is...
One day I want to do a segment on different food combinations. Like we were in Alaska.
Right.
They served watermelon. I go, I need some salt. And about half the people looked at me and said, you're going to do what? Put salt on watermelon? In Texas, that's the thing. Salt on watermelon.
If bologna is made with reverse osmosis water, you're good to go.
Yeah.
Right?
If not. No.
Right, you don't eat it.
All right. So we get the water softener. Now let's talk about the RO system a little bit.
So reason why you want to do a 5-stage reverse osmosis is especially, if you're in a really hard water area, if you smell really, large amounts of chlorine content, then the 5-stage RO is absolutely good help. The whole House Echo Pro Max and the Matrix system will remove, but the 5-stage RO gives you that, polisher, gives you that insurance that, hey, I've got 100% H2O. Mm-hmm. And so a 3-stage reverse osmosis system will work well, but I'm finding that's more ideal for, 1 or 2 people in the home.
Right.
When you've got a full family, when you're using that a lot, the 5-stage is really necessary. The price difference is only a couple of $100, but it makes more sense.
Sure. So, are there cases where someone doesn't need a water softener and they can just do the point of use RO system?
Yeah, if you lived with that e-bike guy.
Yeah.
They're what's that, Louisville?
Yeah,
Louisville has naturally soft water.
Okay.
So all of Louisville, you have naturally soft water. You can get away with, just a point of use reverse osmosis.
So what's that point of use RO special here for July? What can we do?
Well, the 5-stage reverse osmosis is only $1,300.
All right, $1,300 installed. All right, $1,300.
1,300 big ones.
But you got to mention Water Talk.
You got to mention Water Talk
when you call. 303-862-5554 is the number. And I will say, time, I don't know, it's hard to keep up with nowadays, but I think we've had ours about a year. And I'm telling you, it has been a game changer in our home. The water softener and the point of use RO system, just absolutely delicious water. Rarely can you say that, delicious water, but I'm telling you, it does make a difference. And Paul will come out. They'll do the free in-home water test for you. About 60 seconds, and don't be fooled if you're on well water. I mentioned somebody the other day, and they go, oh, we're good. We got well water.
Well water, it's just as bad as you don't know where the water is. It hasn't been tested.
Sure.
So you definitely have PFAS in well water. You definitely have microplastics in well water. And the last thing is, remember what Mark said. Some of the byproduct they use, the wastewater from waste treatment plants, is injected into the aquifers where people get the well water from. Mm-hmm. And can I say one more thing?
Sure.
It's really important that you must eat bologna that's made with reverse osmosis water.
Paul the Waterman, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Always appreciate it. Hey, give them a call. Water Pros, 303-862-5554. Mention you heard them here on Water Talk. And take advantage of that $1,300. I promise you, it will be a game changer for your family and your health as well. 303-862-5554. We'll be back with more right after this.
How much do you